OK。はい、じゃあ今日ライブレッスンに来てくれてありがとうございます。今からライブレッスンを始めます。So today's live lesson is about how you can move from beginner N5 level speaker to intermediate N5 level speaker. Okay? How you can move from here to here. There is a gap in between, and I'm going to show you what is the gap in between. Okay. So here is the example. これです。I see a lot of mistakes that students make. 例えば、1番、昨日ラーメンを食べましたです。2番、ラーメンは美味しいじゃなかった。3番、部屋はきれいくなかった。4番、好きな色は青いと黒いです。5番、難しいの問題でした。6番、簡単の問題ですね。All these 6 sentences are wrong. There are some mistakes in there. The beginner N5 level learner, they make those mistakes and they don't know they're making mistakes and they don't know how to correct themselves. But N5 level, intermediate level speakers, they still make those mistakes, but not a lot. And then when they do, they can correct themselves because they have strategy in their brain. I know how to move from the you don't know why you make mistakes to, oh, I made a mistake and I know how to correct them. There is a gap in between. And so there's one step that you miss in those in between, because when you learn a lot of grammar points and then you felt understand those grammar, but all the grammar point in your head, but you forgot to organize those grammar point. That's why these mistake happens. So today, I'm going to show you how to organize the things you have learned so far. Then you have a clear understanding of each grammar point, when to use it, so that you know which grammar point you use, and also when you make a mistake, you can correct yourself. That's the the good self-learner that I want you to be. So all you need is pen and paper, and then at the end of the lesson, you will have this piece of paper, all the grammar points in one piece of paper. So when you got confused, you can go back to this piece of paper, then you check your grammar point so that you'll be clear what to choose, you should have said. Okay, so that you know how to correct yourself. That's a very strong point that I want to share today. All right, how we do that? We are going to organize things you learn. So before we start, it is important to know how many grammar points you already know. Actually, you're preparing for N5 level, N5 test, you probably already know at least 32 basic sentence pattern. Where did I get this number? I will explain. And please be familiar with the grammar terms that I'm going to use. Okay, so one, you need to understand the Japanese grammar. We have 4 kinds part of speech in Japanese sentence. They are noun, verb, adjective, and na adjective. And for example, 今日は雨です。That's noun sentence. 雨です because ending with noun, so noun sentence. The verb sentence, パンを食べます. It's ending with the verb, so we call it verb sentence. パンを食べます。今日は暑いです。That's ending with E adjective. That's why we call it E adjective sentence. ひらがなは簡単です。ひらがなは簡単です。That's ending with the not adjective, so we call it not adjective sentence. So there are 4 part of speech in Japanese sentence to know that the noun, verb, E adjective, and not adjective. The second point is there are 2 tenses in Japanese, plus, positive, and negative. So 2 tenses, it's called non-past tense, which means present tense and future tense, plus, positive, and negative. The other one is past tense, positive and negative. So non-past tense included future tense. How we recognize this is future or this is present? When we talk about the future, we use the future word together. For example, 明日は休みです。明日 is the future word. So we know that even though 休みです it's present form, but we know that this is talking about the future. Same thing, 来年東京へ行きます。Because the 来年 is the future word, so we know this is talking about the future, next year. So there are 2 tenses and 2 negative, positive ending. The last one is there are 2 speech style in Japanese. One is called 丁寧形 and the other one is called 普通形. If you are using みんなの日本語, then it says polite form. 丁寧形 is polite form. If you are using 元気, it's called long form because it's tend to longer. And then 普通形 is, if you are using みんなの日本語, they call it plain form. If you're using 元気, and they call it short form. Some people use casual form because we use 普通形, plain form, when we talk to friends. That's why they call it casual form. But today I'm going to use the polite form as 丁寧形 and plain form as 普通形. Alright, so to the conclusion, the 34 comes from here. So we have 4 kinds of part of speech: noun, verb, E adjective, and not adjective. And 2 tenses, non-past and past tense, positive and negative, and polite form and plain form. So that's 32 basic sentence patterns. That's a lot. And then if you don't organize these sentence patterns now, it will mix up in your head, and then you make those mistakes because these learners, they're like mixing up all the sentence pattern in here. That's why those things happen. In order to avoid these things happening, we need to organize. So let's get to it. Get your pen and paper ready. Paper, at the end of this lesson, will be this one. We will organize the polite form for noun, the verb, E adjective, and not adjective. And then back of the page, we will organize the plain form, noun, verb, E adjective, not adjective. So keep in your mind that this is going to be filled out, and then at the end of the lesson, you have everything in your hand. Okay? では, let's start working on. So on your paper, write the title. This page will be only the 丁寧形. You can choose whatever the grammar term you use. So for me, I go with right form. The title is polite form. The first thing, we are going to organize the noun sentence. Noun or 名詞. Okay, 名詞 is things, place, people's name. Then we're gonna organize non-past sentence positive and negative, and past tense positive and negative. Okay. All right, let's pick the noun first. Can you give me any nouns that you want to use here? This one. So let's say ame, ame. So the sentence will be, non-past positive will be ame desu, right? Ame desu. All right, then we will fill out the past tense. What is the ame desu past positive? Ame deshita. You're writing this together. So what is the non-past negative? Ame desu. Ame ja nai desu. Ame ja nai desu. Or you can say ame ja arimasen. That's for minna no nihongo. Then last, past negative. What is the past negative? Ame ja nakata desu. Or ame ja arimasen deshita. Ame ja arimasen deshita. Right? So now we organize the non-past positive ame desu, past tense ame deshita, non-past negative ame ja nai desu or ame ja arimasen. Past tense negative 雨じゃなかったです。雨じゃありませんでした。yes, yes, you can use では as well. 雨ではありませんでした。Yeah, そうです。雨では tend to 雨では is more polite way to say it. So yes, you are correct. 雨では、ありませんでした。That you can also use. So here, 雨ではありませんでした。So you, 雨ではありません。Here, I mix up. So don't mix up the negative and non-past. Thank you. All right. So now we have 3 ways to say negative. That's good that now you can see on one table, right? So you don't have to go through all the pages in your textbook. That's the beauty of organizing your thoughts. All right, thank you. All right, next, let's move on to the verb. Can you tell me any verb that we can write here or you choose? Nomu. Okay, thank you. Let's do nomu then. So let's do what is the nomu? Non-past positive. Nomi, right? So I'll give you some time to fill nomimasu past positive, negative, and past negative. So try to do that by yourself. I'll be mute. Alright, sorry, I may confuse you. The answer is nomimasu, nomimashita, negative, non-past, nomimasen, nomimasen deshita. Alright, there's no exception here. All the verb goes like this for the polite form, the verb. Okay, so move on to E adjective. Ready? So E adjective is describe thing and then E adjective word end with E. Important things to notice that when modifying noun, the E adjective modifying noun directly. So please note that on your paper. So for example, 優しい人, this is good. 丸. Right? And then ×優しいの人. I see these these mistake a lot. Like they use no in between E adjective and noun, but it's wrong. So you note here. So every time you make a mistake, you can come back. And thank you. Let's use the OE for this table. So, 多いです。Can you finish those 3 here? I'll give you some time to write on. Alright, so for the いい adjective, 多いです。多かったです for the past. So いい switch to かった. That's the pattern. And for the non-past negative, 多くないです. So いい switch to くないです. That's the pattern. Past negative, 多くなかったです. That small 2 right there. 多くなかったです. So it's kind of a combination of negative and past together. That's 多くなかったです. And let's not forget there is an exception here. Do you know what's the exception? That's this one. So let's write this one too. So いいです is special here. So can you add all 4 here for いいです? And you see why it's an exception. Alright, so for いいです non-past positive いいです negative 良くないです So that the first い switch to よ and second い the same way. So notice that first い switch to よ。良くなかったです。良くなかった。sorry. よかったです。Sorry, よかったです。よくなかったです。So do not say いかったです。いくなかったです。いくないです。It's kind of hard to say, so it makes sense that you switch to よ when you conjugate. So the exception is いいです。Move on to な adjective. So what is the difference between い adjective, な adjective? な adjective modify in between な adjective and noun. 元気な人。元気の人 is wrong. Because if it's the noun, we can use noun の noun. 猫の名前. But for the na adjective, we need a na in between na adjective and noun. Alright, let's do, can you give me any na adjective that we can use here today? Any na adjective? Shizuka, nice. That's right. Shizuka. Let's do Shizuka. Shizuka desu. Correct. All right. So I'll give you some time to finish the negative and past, positive and negative. And then we're going to go over this extra thing later after this. Right? Okay, so the answer is 静かです。静かじゃないです。静かでした。静かじゃなかった。It's actually the same form with noun. 静かじゃありません or ではありません. You can actually use that as well. Okay. Some na adjective appears like e adjective. For example, this one. Beautiful and clean, do you know? That's きれい. It's actually not adjective. Because what happened is when you use きれい in that sentence, きれいです, right? So it looks like e adjective, right? So some people think, oh, this is e adjective. So they use it like, oh, きれいです。きれいかったです。きれいくないです。きれいくなかった。But that's wrong. kirei is actually not adjective. So please note that. There's other words here, so let's write it down all together. So neat and polite, we said teinei, and that's not adjective. 丁寧な字を書きます。丁寧な人。popular, 有名なです。That's not adjective. rude is 失礼な。That's not adjective. rude is 失礼。So rude person, 失礼な人. Right? And dislike, 嫌いな. 嫌いな. The last one, I am great at something. 得意. That's also not adjective. For example, 私はスポーツが得意です。得意なスポーツはバスケットです。So 得意 is not adjective. So now we finished polite form. These are like 16 sentences pattern that we finish in one piece, a little bit over one piece. So the next page, we are going to go over the plain form together, and we're gonna use the same word from the plain polite form so that when you got confused, you can compare. Okay, let's start with here. So we use ame. So the plain form, non-past positive, ameda. I'll give you some time to finish this table. So the title is, I use plain form. Don't forget the title. We are going to organize the plain form here. Alright, so 雨でした. That's actually polite form, not the plain form. We're talking about the plain form. So 雨だった. Yeah, see, 雨でした. Right, that's good. See, it's good to organize your thoughts. That's the beauty of organization here. All right, so the ame, non-past, plain, 雨だ、雨だった。雨じゃない、雨じゃなかった。Right, next is the verb. We use 飲みます, so it will be 飲む. Right? And then I want you to do the two things here. There is an exception for the verb, which is ある. So I want you to fill in those two verbs. I'll give you some time. Yeah, that's correct. So for the verb, plain form, non-past, 飲む, negative, 飲まない, past tense, 飲んだ, negative past, 飲まなかった. For the exception, ある, negative, ない, past, あった, negative, なかった. Alright. So I think you are familiar with these forms. Do you know what they call? It's good to note here because sometimes you forget or confuse with the name of the forms. So 飲む, we call it dictionary form. So note that. So when we talk about the plain form verb, non-past positive, we use dictionary form, which is 飲む. So the plain form, the verb non-past negative, we use nai form, right? And plain form verb, past tense positive, we use ta form, which is te form, and then you switch to ta form, right? And then nomanakatta here is the combination of nai form and ta form. Nomanai, nomanakatta, something like that. And for the aru, which is the existence, aru, nai, atta, nakatta. That's the exception that it's always good to note here, so that anytime you're confused, you can come back here and then check yourself. All right, e adjective, we chose oi. So for the o or e, is that. I'll give you some. All right, so for the EK or E adjective, plain form, non-past, oi, past, okatta, negative, non-past, ookunai, ookunakatta, right? So when you compare plain form, polite form, 多いです、多かったです、多くないです、多くなかったです。And compared to the plain form, it just, they drop the です at the end. That's the plain form. So good to know. So same thing, remember the exception, E. So it will be please add this one as well. Right? いい、良くない、良かった、良くなかった。Alright, that's done for the E adjective. And let's move on to na adjective. Let's see. Alright, so easy to see, right? So na adjective, we use shizukana. So shizukada. That's the non-past positive, shizukada. I'll give you some time to finish. Alright, so for the na adjective plain form, non-past positive, shizukada, shizukadatta for the past, non-past negative, shizukajanai, shizukajanakatta. Right? But good thing is we have that in your paper. Let's see if you can collect those mistakes by yourself. All right. So let's do this now. Because I want you to be able to do that so that you are now like approaching to an intermediate level learner. So, 昨日、ラーメンを食べましたです。What's wrong with this? 食べました。It's at the verb sentence, right? So you do not need this here. That's the mistake. Sometimes they just add this every sentence because that's the first sentence they learn. Everything has this. That's why. Next one. ラーメンは美味しいじゃなかった。美味しいじゃなかった。So 美味しい is E adjective, not adjective. It's E adjective, right? So 美味しい is E adjective. So you cannot use じゃなかった. That's for not adjectives and nouns. So you are supposed to say おいしくなかった. That's the right answer. That's the right way to say it. Now you know how to fix that because you can now analyze おいし is the E adjective. So goes to the E adjective pattern. Next. 部屋はきれいくなかった。部屋はきれいくなかった。What's wrong with this? Remember that be careful with some not adjective. きれい is not adjective, right? So くなかった is E adjective pattern. So you cannot use that. So you're supposed to, the correct way to say is 部屋はきれいじゃなかった。部屋はきれいじゃなかった。because it's a task, so it's a task. We can assume that. 部屋はきれいじゃなかった。Next one. 好きな色は青いと黒いです。What's wrong with this? I hear this a lot. So, 青い and 黒い. Are these nouns or E adjectives? These are E adjective. And you cannot use to say and. We can use to for the noun. Noun is okay, but not for the E adjective. So it should be 好きな色は青と黒です。That's the right way to say it. Okay. 6番、難しいの問題でした。The problem is you are modifying noun with 難しい。難しい E adjective, not adjective. It's E adjective, right? So E adjective can modify noun directly. So you do not need no. Not like noun, no noun. It's different. The last one. 簡単の問題ですね。It's modifying noun. 問題。簡単 is it E adjective or not adjective? It's not adjective, right? So you cannot use no. You have to use not because not adjective modifying with not and noun. Okay, so I hope you were able to collect these by yourself, looking at your note that we create together. That's all for today. That is the skill that I wanted to share today. That when you start learning Japanese, very important to organize when you learn a lot and then it starts to make you confused when you speak or when you read them. Take a moment to organize like we did today. Yeah, take time to organize we did today. And there is 3 points that when you do it. Yeah. Thank you. So there are 3 points that when you think about the grammar, there are 3 points you need to look at. 1, try to see, is it a noun? Is it the verb? Is it the E adjective? Is it the not adjective? Because there are 4 types of speech that are, especially the beginner level, though your sentence will be one of those, right? Then because we have that paper here, so when you got confused, you analyze which one of these and you go back here, okay? ありがとう. And then the second thing is ask yourself, is there any exception? Like today we saw in the E adjective, we have the E is the exception. So we wrote it down. And the verb plain form, ない aru, that was the exception. So we wrote it down. So when you see the grammar points, always ask yourself, is there an exception? Okay. The third thing is that Japanese language, we have positive, negative, and past and present or future tense. So when you learn something new, you try to see those four things. So present, future, positive and negative, past and positive and negative to try to see the form. It's important, especially the beginner state, the first stage of learning. If you form this kind of habit when you learn, that will pay off later a lot. Okay, that's all for today. Today, I wanted to share how to organize the grammar point you have learned so that when you get confused, you can go back to your note and then check yourself and then collect the mistake by yourself. That's the great self-learner. That's the students I want you to become. All right, and then yeah, I hope you enjoy my lesson today. And if you are new here, please subscribe to my channel. And then I have Instagram account as well. There, that's my Instagram account. So please follow me. I will inform you when is the next live lesson. I'm thinking doing the how to memorize kanji next live lesson. My plan is I will give you 10 kanji that day, and at the end of the lesson, you will leave the classroom with remembering 100% of these 10 kanji. And I'll show you how you can do that. And that's something I wanted to share next. Okay, so that's all for today. Thank you. And thank you for your time. And I enjoy as well. Thank you. Thank you, show up. And I hope to see you next lesson. Bye. ありがとうね。さようなら。